All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to get started with our media availabilities here at Phoenix Raceway in advance of Sunday's Fan Shield 500. We are joined by Tyler Reddick, driver of the number 8 I Am Second Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing. Tyler is currently our Sunoco rookie points leader, making his Cup debut at Phoenix this weekend, but has had some success here in the Xfinity Series, finishing third the last 2 times he was here with the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So we will open it up to questions. Please raise your hand and we will get a wireless microphone to you. Start right over there on the left.
Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Tyler, we're 3 races into your Cup Series. You ran a little bit last year, but what would you say at this point have been some of is there a thing that you didn't see coming? Is the biggest adjustment, the biggest change? What are some of the things that you've had to get your arms around now as a full-blown week in and week out Cup Series driver?
So far on the, with the drag ducts and where the cars are at, whether it was Daytona, Las Vegas or Fontana, it's just finding the happy medium between, outright speed in the car, even at Daytona and places like that, or just the handling that comes into play, and trying to figure out what that is and what the happy medium is, I guess, going into the race has been the biggest challenge, because you really don't know where you're at until the green flag drops, essentially. So, the 88 was really good from the drop of the hat of practice on Friday at Fontana, and that carried over into the race for sure. But for me, it's just been trying to figure out where me and my crew chief, Randall Burnett, want to be with our race car. That's probably been the biggest challenge. On top of that, just navigating and being the most efficient that we can on pit road's probably been the second biggest challenge. But pit road's been getting easier. It's, a couple races in, but understanding how important it is, the in and outs. Getting some practice down pit road's been very important to make that as efficient as possible. But just trying to figure out where you want to be on Sunday, I guess, with your race car, because it's kind of a guessing game at most of these tracks. This race this weekend here will be a lot more straightforward, like I'm used to from the trucks and Xfinity side.
Additional questions for Tyler? Come up here to Pat.
Pat DeCola, NASCAR.com. The speed that you guys have shown so far, did you expect that, or does it kind of surprise, or does it just speak to the amount of work that you guys put in over the off season?
I think we've always been able to make our cars better in the race. That's whether that's characteristic of RCR or me and Randall or both. I'm not really sure, but we're always able to make our cars better for the most part. And Fontana wasn't a huge game from start to finish, but we were able to move up through the positions and have really good restarts and able to gain track position that way. So, yeah, I'd say it's going pretty well so far. I was really hoping we could have cracked the top 10 at Fontana, with our strategy, call it Vegas. I think, unfortunately, if we would have started 6th or 4th on that restart, we probably could have came out 3rd, 4th, or 5th. Just 5th is a really hard place to restart at a lot of these mile-and-a-half racetracks. So we've had some really good, potential finishes, but our runs have been okay. We're trying to make our cars better. This will be a big tell of where we stack up and where I stack up, especially as a short track driver compared to these guys that are really good at this. It's a website, and you can go on the website iamsecond.com, and they have a lot of videos where people sit down in the white chairs, they call it, and kind of reflect and get perspective of how they've came to putting themselves second and bringing how Jesus come into their life, or how their religion has changed them for the better, and they just talk. There's a lot of different scenarios. Every sit down, every interview is different, but they talk about their experiences and the challenges they go through life and how God helps them get through it. And a lot of times when they have those sit downs, it's stuff when they were growing up, or stuff they went through as their teenage years, or stuff that was more recently just tough, tragic events. So every story is different, but if you go to iamsecond.com, you can learn a lot more about it.
Stay there in the back and then go to Wolfgang.
Rich Colbert, the Motor Racing Network. You touched on it just a moment ago. I got a couple of questions here, but first of all, at what point of the season do you feel like you've got a handle on what's going on? When can you assess where you are with your team?
I say once this West Coast swings over, we'll have a pretty good idea. Granted, we had the Super Speedway to start the year. We had 2, intermediate style tracks, and then we'll have they call it a short track, but it's not. But, it's our short track package that we now have for this year. So I'd say after this swing is over, we'll have a fairly good idea where we're at, what we need to work on, we had a pretty good idea after Fontana what we need to do going into Atlanta and Homestead, and this will kind of set us up and tell us what we need to do when we come back here in November. But more importantly, where I stack up and where we stack up working together as a team after this race Sunday.
And looking to Atlanta, I mean, what's your experience with that track, and how confident do you feel as you head to that 1.5 miles?
I have some confidence in a way, but these cars drive so different on these 1.5 mile racetracks that everything that I've been able to do there to make my races go well, I don't know if I will be able to exactly apply the same method or approach. So I guess that's what we're going to find out in practice, is if we're going to be able to do just that. But that's Fontana and Vegas were two really important tracks to run good at, and unfortunately Vegas didn't end well, but we were right there. Fontana almost was a good day. We were just a little bit off from being able to be in the top 10. And so, we got to take advantage of Atlanta and Homestead and get some really good runs there, for sure.
Go to Wolfgang in the back.
Yeah, Wolfgang Monser from Germany Rennsport Press Agency. Your preparation for the races, is this also included work with a simulator?
Yeah, there's some work that you can do there. This West Coast swing, we've been stuck out here, so we had to try and bunch it all in and get it done before we left to come out for this swing. But we have, access to the Chevrolet simulator that's really helpful for an event like this, where Randall and I don't really have a notebook, but the team has a notebook from kind of what the cars were in 2018. We have an idea what we're shooting for, but the simulator at least gives you something to go off of, because without that, you'd be going into the weekend blind, and that's tough for anybody, whether that's truck, Xfinity, or most importantly on the Cup side with a lot of other good teams and drivers. So it's been a big benefit trying to help us prepare for this race.
Going to go back to Steve.
Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Tyler, level of competition is the question. We always talk about the jump from Xfinity to Cup is a significant jump. What have you noticed about the depth of the competition, or have you noticed anything different about it, and just the degree of that jump thus far early in your career?
That's a huge jump. I feel like what would have been battling for top 2, 3 and the Xfinity side is what you're dealing with when you're trying to battle just to get inside the top 15. So a lot of good drivers. It's pretty crazy. You have a lot of guys that are very successful that you're racing around, and a lot of the day I remember being around Truex, a lot of the Gibbs cars, some of those other guys, Joey. I mean, it's just tough, it's just part of it, but it's been a lot of fun. That makes the racing fun. It's really cool to race against those guys. But still, even the guys like those, like them, they have bad days, and we just got to try and capitalize on it and make the most out of those days and try and get good finishes. So, yeah, you're gonna probably outrun some really good cars on days, even when you aren't running that good yourself. That just goes to show how tough it is.
Any final questions for Tyler? All right, Tyler, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend. All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Phoenix Raceway in advance of Sunday's Fan Shield 500. We are now joined by Ryan Blaney, driver of the number 12 Menards Tarekett Ford for Team Penske. Ryan, you are starting off the day with some pretty good news here, as Team Penske announced a multi-year extension to keep you in that 12 car. Why don't you just start off by talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, really excited to get that out there, and it's been something we've been working on for for a little while through the off season, and so it's nice to finally announce it and all that stuff. So really excited to be continuing with the Penske group for years to come. They've been a great group to me, Mr. Penske's. I don't know if I could ever thank him enough. So it's nice to continue with that whole team, and met some great people along the way, and I look forward to working with them for, like I said, many years to come.
Awesome. All right, we'll get started. We'll start with Steve and then go to Wolfgang.
Hey, Ryan, Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Obviously off to a good start from the points perspective, finish perspective. At what point during the season can you, maybe not proclaim because you're never where you want to be, but at what point in the season can you establish that, okay, we got a pretty good foundation, we got a pretty good base, we're a pretty good spot where we're at here?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that right now, right? I mean, we've fired off really good, but it's a matter of keeping it. You know, you got to keep your cars up to date, keep them fast. Be interested to see where we stack up between everybody here with this low downforce package. That'll be a big testament to see, you know, what it is, because, you know, we get to the playoffs, there's a lot of short tracks. So we'll find out. This will be a big test this weekend, but it's just, honestly, it's been nice to start off the year good. You know, I don't get the finishes that we wanted, but to have been running up in the top 3 pretty much every single race this year, and working with a new team too, that's just great. And, you know, you're going to build off of that as, you know, Todd and I get used to each other and things like that. And, you know, there's a couple things I wish I could have taken back last week that, you know, hurt us towards the end of that race. That's just learning. You know, I feel like we're doing our job right, and, you know, the finishes will come. So we're just working together, and, you know, but the big thing is staying on top of it all year. That's going to be the big thing. Teams will come around, you know, teams that might be struggling right now, they're going to figure it out. They're going to be good, and we're going to have to keep getting better ourselves. So it's just you can never be truly satisfied with where you're running right now, just because, you know, teams are going to continue to get better. You just got to stay with the group.
Go to Wolfgang and then Bob.
Wolfgang Monser from Germany, Ranchport Press Agency. Personal question, as Rogers also owner of an IndyCar team, is there interest from you, a realistic possibility you try an open wheel car one day?
Yeah, there's really only a couple motor vehicles I would not want to drive. Like MotoGP stuff those guys are nuts. You don't drive those, you ride them, right? But and like Supercross, I'd rather be on 4 wheels. But any kind of car, I think you talk to a lot of race car drivers, they just are fascinated by any type of vehicle, right? And you respect other people and what they do and the challenges that come with it, because there's similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. And it's, you know, it's really cool that Jimmy's going to be testing an IndyCar. He's been talking to me a little bit about that, and I know he's put it out there. That's awesome, you know. And there is interest. I'd love to do like a driver team swap day. The IndyCar guys come and run our cars for a little bit, and we can drive Indy cars. That'd be cool. I definitely wouldn't put it out of the question. It's you know, something I'd love to do, and got to figure this stock car thing out first, and then maybe have a little more leverage to be able to do something like that. Just mess around in it.
We're going to go to Bob and then Lee.
Bob Pockers, Fox Sports. I have 2. First, kind of formality. Can you say how long it's for?
Multi-year.
Okay. And why sign now instead of maybe wait and see, like test the waters a little bit, see who else might be interested? Are you a guy who just either doesn't like change or doesn't want to be pestered with questions throughout the year, or what?
Yes. You know, it's just, you know, we started working on this thing in the off season, and you know, even though we had pretty much a full year left on our deal before my current one was up, I was really happy with where I was at. You know, I love the people that I'm around. I love working with, you know, all the teams. You know, like I said, I feel like I owe so much to Roger for what he's done for me. I just didn't really see myself right now anywhere else, you know, and you know, yeah, there's a couple doors open, a couple seats open with other teams, but, you know, I didn't talk to any of the other teams. You know, I if I was approached by another team, I don't even know if I'd want to talk to them, just because I was so happy where I was at, and was so loyal to Roger. So, you know, my mindset was if they'll have me back, you know, I'd love to be back, and it was great that both of our minds were set on that.
Go to Lee.
Hey, SpencerRacingBoys.com. How good was it to see Ryan Newman in the flesh, and you know, how great is it to have him back here at the racetrack today?
Yeah, we did a Ford team building event at the Arizona State football stadium there last night, and Ryan showed up. We had no idea he was showing up. We were having dinner, and he walked in. That was great. That was the first time I've seen Ryan personally. I think a lot of us have seen Ryan over there, so that was really cool to see. We sat and talked for the whole Ford group for an hour and a half when he got there, and we talked about a lot of stuff. And it was just nice to see him, and he's full Ryan Newman caliber, and it's great to see, you know. And it was cool to hear some of the process that he went through, and you know, some doctors that worked on him, and they were very extensive with him. And you know, I think he's been passing with flying colors and everything, which is unheard of. And which is great to hear. So it was nice to see him and be able to sit down and talk to him a little bit, or a lot actually, about kind of multiple things, from the process of what happened to where we can go at in the future to keep improving the safety aspects of these things. So there was a lot of insight going on, a lot of conversation around that table of some things we should talk about and things like that.
And given your incredible start to the season, at least how you've been running on the racetrack, not necessarily all the finishes, but how excited are you to get to Atlanta, another high-speed track, knowing what you saw at Vegas and California?
Yeah, I mean, you're excited, right? I mean, a mile and a half stuff's been pretty good. Obviously, the 88's been really strong. He was strong at Vegas. He was strong at Fontana too. So they definitely got it figured out right now. I think we're right there with them. So, but like I said, my focus is this weekend, trying to figure out this low downforce stuff, see where we stack up. That stuff we'll figure out Monday, but for next week. But it's been, like I said, it's just been nice to start off the season well. And but this weekend's very important. Not only it's a championship race, but it's your first time in the low downforce stuff, and seeing how we can kind of go back to what we used to be 2 years ago, and figure it out. Where everyone is.
Going to stay up front here with Pat.
Pat DeCola, NASCAR.com. There was so much talk about the 2021 free agent class and the caliber of rides available, but also the driver star power. You're obviously kind of like the first domino to fall here. You stayed where you were. Do you sort of anticipate things kind of staying in status quo almost, or do you think things will get kind of crazy?
I don't really pay attention to it, to be honest with you. I worry about my deal. Honestly, I look for tweets from y'all to figure that stuff out. You guys usually know about it way before I do. But hey, yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of great seats open, a lot of things up in the air on, whether drivers are retiring or their deal's up. It's there's always that silly season kind of shake up and rumors and stuff like that. But nice to have our deal, so I'm out of that conversation. And it's going to be nice not to answer questions about it and save them for those guys. If something comes out, I'll be like, oh, well, that's neat, but I'm not going to pry. That's their personal business. So.
Do we have anything additional for Ryan? Go to Bob and then Reed.
Did either the dynamic of Brad also being a free agent and or the 48 being out there, you feel create any urgency for you to get your deal done?
There wasn't really any urgency at all. We took our time on it, made sure everyone was happy. From my side to the Penske side, made sure everything was fair. And that's kind of just where I was at. That's none of my business. The Brad's situation. I've loved having him as a teammate. He's done a lot for me too. I mean, he's the one who got me started in his trucks, and which led to the Penske Xfinity cars and Cup cars. So it's been great to have him as a teammate, throughout the years, and as a boss when I started. But as far as that, other stuff goes, there was no urgency for me personally. But as far as Brad's situation, I don't know anything about it. It's his deal, not mine.
Go to Reed. Right behind you, Reed.
Reed Spetz with NASCAR Wire. What do you do in a manufacturer's team building event in a football stadium, and how does the dynamic work when then you have to come back here and try to beat them on the racetrack?
Ford does a good job of trying to keep everybody pretty close. We're all competitors, but at the same time we drive for Ford, and it's very important to try to get them in victory lane. We've done multiple things. This year we were at the ASU football stadium, which a bunch of drivers playing football. It sounds hilarious. But we did a competition, a throw competition, punt, and field goal kick competition. I won the field goal competition. I hit a 35-yarder. I was pretty proud of that. My leg's sore today, but I did it. LaJoy is a pretty good athlete. He won throwing competition, and surprisingly enough, Cole Custer won the punt competition. I don't know why I said that's surprising. He seems like a good athlete, but that's what we do. I don't know, just kind of hang out with not only the drivers, but the Ford performance guys and things like that. Just kind of get everyone closer when we have dinner and things like that. So it's just something they do to kind of bring everyone together, which I think is good.
All right, anything? Oh, I'll go right there in the middle.
Michael Cusimano, Popular Speed. So in addition to the new short track package, how do you think that the PJ1, specifically in turns 3 and 4, is going to affect the handling of the race cars?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. They moved it down a lot, especially in 3 and 4, like you said, to where it's almost, it's right in the second lane. I mean, if you miss the bottom by a few feet, I think your right's going to be in it. I haven't personally seen it. I just saw photos of it when they sent it out to us this week. But I think you're going to run in it a lot, especially with the low downforce package. I know it's not going to be, as hot Sunday as it is today. But I do think you're going to run in it. I think we're going to be going slow enough through the corners to where it's going to be an option. So, yeah, hopefully it's, they were just trying a lot of things, for trying to make the racing a little bit better here. And I think the low downforce package is a step up. But you got to go more, especially because it's a championship race. This is a big testament of how they're going to prepare the track also, not only how the cars are. So I think it's good. They've played with it. If it doesn't work, they'll change something up. But at least they're trying something, and which I think is good. They're listening to some people, and I think it's a good option to try. Why not? So.
Go back to Steve.
Steve Post again with MRN. Ryan, you've talked about the uncertainty of this package, the uncertainty of PJ1. We've got a new tire here. Philosophically, or where do you start then when it comes to this practice session? Is it somewhere in the middle of all of this? 2018 comes to mind. Where do you even start to tackle this? And do you start in one place and do teammates start elsewhere? Just how's the dynamic of that?
Yeah, I think you're definitely closer to your 2018 setup, right? This is the closest our cars have been since that year. So yeah, you're starting close to there, and as far as the 2, 22, and 21, we're not vastly different. We all have our different setups and things like that, but it's nice to have a bunch of teammates to where maybe you go in this direction, it doesn't work, and if you're struggling, or that's just a good thing about having teammates. But don't fire it off into one as hard as you did last year. I'll tell you that. You don't want to be driving a coupe around there in lap 1. So you'll be lifting a lot earlier than what your recent memory is telling you to. But I think it's good. But yeah, you just kind of start closer to what you did a couple years ago, just because that's the most recent one we got with the low downforce package, and then you work on from there. Figure out what the PJ1's going to do. I'm sure we'll get running in it, maybe a little bit in practice. It's hot enough to where that stuff seems activated. The bad thing about that stuff in here is there's so much dust out here. It kind of cakes over that stuff and sits in it. So it might take a little bit for it to dry off, or not dry off, but kind of get clean. But I think we'll get in it maybe a little bit today, but the Xfinity guys will definitely run in it tomorrow for sure. Maybe even the ARCA folks today in their race. So I'm not sure. We'll see.
Anything final? All right, Ryan, congrats on the extension and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Phoenix Raceway. We're now joined by Michael McDowell, driver of the number 34, Loves Travel Stops Ford. Michael, I know you guys have a campaign there at Front Row Motorsports that you wanted to talk a little bit about today.
Yeah, so in the beginning of this season, we just wanted to find a few things that we were passionate about that we could support throughout the year and help get our partners behind. And so for this first quarter, it was all about drive safe and taking the pledge to do that. And just so happened that shortly after we launched the campaign, my wife had a pretty serious car accident. So it became very real and personal after that point, and something that can totally be prevented. A guy ran a red light, just not paying attention, and like I said, it was a pretty serious accident. So definitely got my attention and my family's attention, and just helped kind of bring awareness to, we all have a responsibility, and we take it for granted out there on the road, but there's a lot of loved ones and family members, and my family, we got 4 kids riding around with my wife, so I'm very thankful everybody was okay, but definitely was a reality check.
Awesome. We're glad everyone's okay. Thanks for sharing that. All right, we'll open up to questions for Michael. Please raise your hand. We'll start over here with Steve and then go to Wolfgang.
Postman doesn't need a microphone.
Exactly. Steve Post, MRN. Michael, new teammate this year. You had been with a similar veteran with David Reagan, it seemed like for years and years. John Hunter Nemechek, talk a little bit about just his, what he brings to the table, some of the differences. There's a distinct, you're the senior man now. Just what has that been like with a rookie co-driver with your team?
Yeah, so it's it's really hard. I get asked that question a lot. It's really hard to put it into words because I just don't know yet. And I don't mean that negatively. John Hunter's a great kid, and his work ethic is great. He's done a good job in the race car, but as far as the dynamic of developing the team and where we go directionally, we're so new into the season. It's hard to tell what that'll look like. Our crews have worked together for quite some time. So as far as crew chiefs, engineers, all that goes, all the chemistry is really good. But there just hasn't been a whole lot to discuss yet. Now that we've got through Vegas and California, and this will be our first short track, that'll give us a better indication of what we feel like we need to be working on moving forward and all those things. So, so far so good. It's been, he's done a great job, and but it's hard to replace David Reagan too. He brings a lot to the table, and he's been a great teammate for years, and then also just knows the culture at Front Row. And I think it's hard. I think it's hard for a young guy coming into the sport, coming into the Cup Series. It's challenging. You guys see that with the rookies this year. I mean, they're doing a good job, but I mean, you can take standout guys that win lots of races and challenge for championships and start to look average in the Cup Series, and it's just a really tough transition. So I think he's done a good job, and I think he's in the rookie class, he's doing pretty good for where he's at, and he's just got to keep managing the races and keep just getting everything out of it, and so far he's done a good job.
I'm going to go to Wolfgang in the back.
How are you?
Yes, thank you. I'm fine. I'm back in America.
Nice.
I have a question concerning the current weather situation. We have, at the moment, very heavy wind, and I would say maybe it's also blowing dust and sand on the racetrack. How is this a critical factor for qualifying and races, heavy wind?
Yeah, so here in the desert, obviously it's dusty, and you always sort of have a breeze going on. Today's probably stronger than normal, but the grandstands do a pretty good job of blocking all that. The biggest thing is when the track sits for a decent amount of time with no cars on it. Right now it's just pretty steady. There's ARCA cars running, surface stays clean, Xfinity will go out, then the Cup cars. But traditionally what happens here is when the track sits for an hour or two, that dirt kind of gets stuck on there, and those first few cars in qualifying really struggle. With qualifying being tomorrow, different schedule, I think that the circumstances would be a little bit different. But when you're on the racetrack itself, you can definitely feel the wind, in particular when it changes. But at these particular tracks, shorter tracks, New Hampshire, places like that, wind doesn't affect the balance a tremendous amount, especially with the way the grandstands are positioned. You're not getting hit in funny angles and things like that where you feel it at Daytona and Texas and Vegas and other places where the wind can really move the car around.
I'm going to go to the far left. I believe Michael had a question.
No, I didn't.
No.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How you doing, Michael? Michael Knight from the Republic. I was just following up. Your wife is okay after that red light incident. Is that correct?
Yeah, so she didn't have any broken bones or anything like that. She's still a little beat up. She's still sore. It's probably taken her a little bit longer to recovery than she thought, just because you have an accident like that and you feel fine, and then the adrenaline wears off, and the next day you're sore and you figure, oh, this is kind of normal. But now we're a couple weeks later and she's still pretty sore, so everything's going to be fine. But yeah, she's definitely still feeling the effects of it.
Was her expedition a write-off?
Yeah, total write-off. Yeah. So that part of it was fun. That's my first experience going through that. So we could talk all day about insurances and how that works. I have a lot of knowledge about that right now. So if you have any questions, let me know.
I'm going to go to Pat right here.
Pat Tickle at NASCAR.com. Not an insurance question.
Great.
We're a year removed from the throwdown. Are you able to laugh about that with Danny yet, or what's the status between the two of you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to laugh about it the next day. So Daniel and I have a great relationship. If anything, our relationship's better since then. I think that it's very easy to get sport and personal mix, because you live it and you're in it. But to me, I mean, that's part of being an athlete and being a driver. You're high intensity and adrenaline's going, and so it's just kind of a part of it. But yeah.
Going to go in the far left corner.
Devin Henry, Sports 360 AZ. For clarity's sake first, have you had your wife and your children out here around where you've grown up before?
Yeah, so for years we've been coming out. Now my kids are older and in school, so it's hard to pull them out of school for a long period of time. And the West Coast swing's really hard. So, but we were out here for Christmas. We spent my wife and I are both from here, so all of our family's still out here. So we spent about 10 days out here during the holidays, and so yeah, during the race weekend it's tough. You don't actually get to do as much as you think you would. Today's a pretty long day, and after you do your post-practice meetings, and by the time you get dinner, it's time to go to bed, and you get started over. So it's hard to to have a lot of family time when you're during the race weekend.
So when you're working from working in Scottsdale when you were here, and then of course living just a little bit north of here, is there anything that you just don't get to do that you'd really like to go back and do or experience again when you come out here to the west side?
Yeah, so I love karting. It's what I grew up doing, and I grew up at the kart track in North Phoenix at PKRA. I mean, I was there at least every other day. For 15 years of my life, I grew up 6 miles from there. I'd ride my bike to the go-kart track, and so I like to just come back for a couple days and just have some fun and get to drive. And but I get to do that at home too. So yeah, that would be one thing. And it's just in general the season gets busy, so the off season is really your time to do it. But the weather's so nice right now. It'd be great to take a boat out and go fishing today, but I don't think that's going to happen.
All right. Do we have any additional questions for Michael? Go up to Chris.
Yeah, Chris Knight, Catch Fence. Michael, I was just curious if front row going to a two-car team has been beneficial as far as you guys being able to run better and not having to worry about, 3 teams running consecutively every weekend.
Yeah, I think that yes and no. So I think that one thing I know for sure, we were able to, obviously when you have 3 cars, you have some extra people, right? And so in the off season, we were able to combine some teams and pull from here and there and mix things up a little bit. And I feel really good about what we did personnel wise. I think that this West Coast swing is challenging no matter what, especially for, I won't call us a small team, but medium level teams. I went to the shop on Monday, and I mean, there was 1 car in there. I mean, our entire inventory was on the road, being swapped out, transported, and so there's just, you go in there, you go, man, where are all our race cars? So, the West Coast swing is tough. I think once we get past that, we'll start to see sort of the fruit of going from 3 to 2, with just being able to be more caught up and prepared. And like I said, the biggest thing is personnel. We were able to move things around and change, just small things, personality and culture, and put people together that work better together. And so, yeah, I think that, the changes that we made in the off season were good. Yeah.
We'll go to Lee.
You had a great qualifying effort last weekend. Is that something that the team has been trying to work on, just trying to, I guess, tighten that part of the program up?
We've been doing the opposite, actually. With the 1.5 mile package, or last week in California, it's 2 mile track, but the intermediate tracks, with this particular package, you can run less downforce and have some speed in your car, and then you pay the price in the race. And so last year we had a couple top 5, couple top 10 qualifyings, and then dropped a green flag, and we really struggled. And so we changed the approach for this year. And before California, I'd have told you we were going to qualify 25th. I mean, we had as much downforce as we could possibly build into the car, and still qualified well. So there's some good and bad with that. The good was we weren't tricking ourselves. The bad was we still need to build more downforce in our cars, and so that's something that we definitely have to work on, to help them race better. But then the news came out this week about the Clash being on the road course, and I mean, I told Drew, I said, let's bring our Daytona car to Atlanta next week and let's sit on the pole and let's make it happen. He said that was a bad idea, that I wouldn't enjoy myself on Sunday if I did that, but there's a few moments where I felt like, well, this is a good idea. But you know, humor aside, there will be a weekend where we're gonna go for it, because I think it's, one, a cool event. Two is I have the most laps out of anybody that's in the Cup Series in Daytona on the road course, and I would love to be able to be in the Clash and do that. So yeah, I think you'll see us pull out all the stops and try to get one. Yeah.
Go back up to Bob.
Bob's the guy that always gets me in trouble. He gets me to say something I should say at some point. Hopefully,
well, this
not
should be
time.
somewhat easy, I think, because you talked about Bob Packers, Fox Sports. Can you run this package on the road course at Daytona? Can you run 750 horsepower? You think, is there enough if you use the backstretch chicane?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I haven't even thought about that. Right, what they're going to do as far as that package goes. Have they talked about that?
They just said it's going to be this car, and right now would be this package.
Right.
And I assume somebody's going to have to go out there and figure out how fast you would be at 750 horsepower there, and you can.
I think you'd be okay. Yeah, I think that, you know, turn 6 coming on the banking would probably be about a 45 miles an hour corner for our cars. So I bet you'd be close to 200 for a short period of time before you got on the brakes. But I'm no engineer. I haven't run the simulation to tell you, but I hope it's 750. I mean, that would be what I would pull for. But you know, our cars are so much better than they used to be. The brakes and everything else, I feel like we could put on a really good show there. So hopefully they keep all the power in it. Don't tell them any otherwise. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Michael. Well, thanks for joining us today. Good luck this weekend.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
You're going back through every single press conference.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Another argument on serious graduate here. That's right. All right, man. Go make it happen this weekend.
I have one of these on me right now. I can go grab another. All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Phoenix Raceway. We are now joined by Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 FedEx Freight Toyota, who is our most recent race winner here at Phoenix, having won the fall race last year. We will open up to questions for Denny. Please raise your hand and we will get a wireless microphone to you. Start up front with Bob and then go to Wolfgang.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. I know you were out here, but did you call into a competition meeting at all this week? And if so, how the conversations with Truex go?
It was good. I think we have a mutual understanding. It's. I think we both understand that 550 racing makes it extremely difficult to have teammates. A lot of times because it's so cutthroat in the way that you have to race out there. You're trying to give up. You want to give up any runs that you got. It's a lot like super speedway racing in my eyes. Kind of when you get runs, you got to take them. You got to put yourself in the best line as possible. And I think we both understand that for sure. I definitely see his point of view and understand his frustrations that he had. So I think it was a great conversation, and I think we have a better understanding of kind of where each other are mentally in those situations going forward. No kissing? No, we were too far away for that.
Going back to Wolfgang and then Devin and Jeff.
Wolfgang Monser from Germany, Rennsport Press Agency. I have a technical question. In this NASCAR sport, when you go several times to the same racetrack, or from last year when you're winning, can you rely on the data, or you just work from scratch again when you're coming each year new to this track and set up the car?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so long since we've come back year after year and things have been the same. It's once again different this year, even though we're kind of reverting back to 2018. You can look at data, but you still takes so long as a driver to change your discipline back to what it was with this rules package. So I know people that ran in the simulator said it took hours and hours to get just back around the racetrack in a competitive lap time, simply because we're so used to driving into the corner like we were with the larger spoilers. So I think it's going to take time. I think the guys that run good or win this weekend are either going to have a setup that they hit on that is really good, or they acclimated quicker to this package back to where we were.
Go to Devin and then Jeff. Sorry, did I get your name wrong?
No, Cole.
Oh, Cole. Sorry, Cole.
You're good. Cole Cusimano, Popular Speed. So on top of the new short track package and the tires coming here this weekend, how do you expect the PJ1, specifically in turns 3 and 4, to play a factor into the race? I know you were pretty vocal about that last.
Yeah, it will. It will play a factor. I'll be interested to see how it plays out through the Xfinity race and see if those guys make their way up there. In the Cup race, we always seem to find lines that the other series really don't, and we had. There's enough experience where people know and trust it. So I think it will be a factor, especially it being slightly lower. It looks like they drug the track as well, pretty much. So it will be part of the racing for sure. It's just a matter of, I don't think you'll see much of it in practice, not until the race, early to mid stages, where you'll see people going up there and using it.
Going to go to Jeff and then Dustin and then Steve.
Jeff Gluck from The Athletic. Did you guys get any answers as to why you've been off at Fontana and Vegas, or do you feel like this is something that you can make gains on and make progress, or are you just behind right now?
A little bit of all things. I mean, I think that it's collective. I mean, certainly if you look over the last, really over the course of my career, there's not been too many, bad years when it comes to JGR or Toyota. So I know I've got the best people working on it, and we didn't just sit stagnant in the off season. We developed just like everyone else did, but certainly you have one manufacturer that completely changed cars, so they probably most likely made significant advances, and then you got the Fords who were not going to just sit back and let us win all the races. So they went to work extra hard. So I think that we need a little bit of everything. I think you need the free speed and motors. I think you need less drag and more downforce. So all those things we need. And so I think that qualifying was one of those eye-opening things for us. I think being essentially one of the last cars of the big teams anyway, and really just a lack of overall grip and speed. So those are two really things that you got to have. You can have one or the other and still be competitive, but if you have both, you'll go out and dominate like the 88 had. So I think that that's something we're striving for, and I've got the best people on it. We're not going to just sit here and not be competitive.
Dustin Long is the sports question. One, I don't know if you've seen Ron, it's obviously your record on the track. Just the idea that a couple weeks later when you're back on the track.
Yeah, it's a great sight for sure. I know that I haven't got to physically see the car yet, but I know it looks really bad. And we know that from all the video pictures that we've seen, it's a blessing to be in this position and be talking about when he's going to get back in the car. So especially at this time. So I'm really looking forward to it. NASCAR give us all a good update about where they're thinking and what they're looking at going forward. So really optimistic about where our sport's going on the safety side.
Also, with a lot of the unknowns and with this package and moving forward, you're hearing more and more about drivers and teams going back to the simulator like Monday or Tuesday or shortly after the race to kind of go over things. Is that something that you'll go back to and do that this coming week, or why so?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of drivers do that. Some people feel that there's benefits in it, some don't. I think it's good to obviously back up some of the data that you have for sure, but real world experience is definitely the most valuable, but certainly it can cut some learning curve time in half, or even less than that when you have a good simulation program. So I think every team has it, and everyone uses it relatively the same way. Yeah, I mean, certainly this is a track that we're going to focus a lot on, more so than what we would on any other week, and we give all of our efforts every single week. But we know that with the championship being decided here, this is one that you really got to key on and make sure it's right. So either, yes, me or my teammates or both of us or all of us will do it.
You're going to go to Steve, back to Jeff, and then Rich.
Yeah, Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Denny, following up kind of on what Jeff said, the getting your arms around 2020, getting a little more speed in the race car. What challenges does this West Coast swing bring to that? And that, how do you adapt and get something quickly turned around to Atlanta and Texas? And how does that work with this West Coast swing and the challenges of cars usually in transporters between here and there most of the time?
Yeah, and, there's all kinds of challenges. I think, the bigger your team is, or the more cars that you supply, the longer it takes to get everything in production and make changes. You got to get all the crew chiefs to buy in to this is the direction we need to go. Start some kind of design or some kind of different idea of how you can get there. Obviously, design has all been put on hold, so you really can't develop a new car. So we continue to just make sure that we're trying to do advances in the wind tunnel, making our setups as good as we can, making our simulation as good as we can. And it used to be, when you had new cars and things like that, or you had new body builds or something like that, typically if you're off in the beginning stages of the year, I mean, it can take as long as the Coke 600 before you can really implement all that stuff that you want in your race cars or race teams. So it's kind of a delayed results even when you have the right idea.
Going to go back to Jeff, and then Rich and Bob.
Sorry, you said they gave you an update. Were you talking about something that happened this week or the preseason update?
On.
You said NASCAR gave you an update when you were talking about Newman
Oh yeah, just kind of the car and things like that. They have great dialogue with us, talking about I think the questions got asked about will there be any rules changes, things like that, any chassis changes, and so they're continuing to investigate it and still work on it. So they gave us all that update and told us what they saw, and I think that everyone was pleased with that.
Right in front of you. There you go.
Looking to Atlanta next week, you've got one win there, but since that win, you've struggled quite a bit at Atlanta. What is it about that track that struggled? Why do you struggle there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel that's one of our better tracks. I'm not sure why our results aren't showing that, but yeah, I've always liked going to Atlanta. It's definitely one of my favorites for sure. It's definitely a driver's racetrack, one where a driver can definitely make up a little bit more than what his car can't give them. So, the challenge is getting your car to, you're coming off these smooth 1.5-mile racetracks or 2-mile racetracks where you're kind of getting in the swing of things again in 2020, and then you'll go there and you'll feel like your car is awful. Just when it's great versus the competition, it feels awful. So it's just managing, the experience of knowing, all right, this is a race-winning car feel for that track, and knowing that's the big advantages of it. But yeah, I look forward to turning around our results there, however bad they may be.
Going to go to Bob and then Gannon.
Bob Hackers, Fox Sports. Are the drivers, are you guys demanding changes from NASCAR for the plate stuff or after what happened, or do you not know what to ask for and you're more just interested in seeing where it should go?
I mean, I think, in his situation, it's really hard to say that that's a car problem or anything. I think unless you slowed us up 20, 30 miles an hour, you're going to have that in that situation. I'm no aerodynamicist, let's put that on the record, but I just feel like, some wrecks, especially these super speedways, when we talk about a car turning over, is when a car gets turned around and then someone hits the nose. Unless you slow way, 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 way down, that is gonna happen. So I feel like that was one of the worst case scenarios that we had, and luckily, knock on wood, we had a good result, right? All things considered, we had a very good result. So I think that's the people, the engineering staff at NASCAR and the teams that have been building these cars and figuring out where to put bars and all that have done a phenomenal job of keeping our sport safe for many, many years now, even though the wrecks have looked horrific.
Gonna go to Gannon right over here.
Gannon Hannibal, Arizona State University. I'm a college student who's completely new to NASCAR. What would your advice be to a new fan of the sport?
What would I want now?
What would your advice be to a new fan of the sport or someone who's interested in looking into it?
I think it depends on whether you're looking at it from a fan standpoint or trying to have a career in it. From a fan standpoint, learning about all the tech, what happens before you even get to Sunday. There's so many people that put these cars together, and it's just amazing the technology that's behind what makes the cars go fast. It's not just the driver that's willing to take the biggest risk. There's so much that goes into it. It really is, from a working standpoint, it starts at your local short tracks. It goes right at Tucson or wherever it might be, tracks that they're grassroots racing. Most of these crew guys that I see in the Cup Series now are people that I raced against in go-karts in Virginia, and the driving side of things didn't work out for them, and then they took either a crew chief or mechanic's role and just started helping someone at the local level. Once you create that resume at the local level, you're able to take it then to an ARCA car, or K&N car, or those teams are always looking for help, and then you find the Xfinity and the truck teams will seem to pluck guys from that. So it's a path that people can get all the way to the top if they really work hard and want to make it happen. So I encourage everyone that wants to do it.
Awesome. Any final questions for Denny? We'll wrap up here with Lee.
Hey, Spencer, Racing Boys. Just curious, your thoughts on the Clash being run on the road course?
Yeah, it's going to be different for sure. I mean, I guess I'll kind of reserve judgment on it for sure until I think the schedule is a win, no doubt about it. You know, we were really down there for an extended period of time where a lot of things just weren't happening. So definitely love that. I can definitely see where, hey, these road course cars are no good anymore. Anyway, you might as well use them. The demand for next-gen cars will be in short supply, so you don't want to crash them in exhibition race. So I see everything around it. I understand it. It will be interesting from an excitement standpoint. I think, you know, there could be some hype and excitement because, hey, we're on the Daytona road course for the first time. But you know, the challenges will be, are you going to see that side-by-side crazy finish that you do on the Super Speedway? Probably not. Some of the interesting things to me are you're going to have a road course car now running on the banking, and you know, for such an extended period of time, you know, how does that all work and things like that. So I think the field is likely to get spread out quite a bit more. Are we running a short track package? Or are we running a intermediate package like for spoiler? I don't know, because I think if you had the small spoiler like you'd run on every other road course, I mean, these and big horsepower, 750 horsepower, I mean, we're going to be, it's unrestricted. I mean, we're going to be running 200 and something at the start finish line. So I don't know how it all is going to work. I think it sounds good, but definitely will reserve until I see it all play out. I'll find out in February, though. Yeah, so I think it definitely will change our mindset on how we handle practices for the 500. Now, again, I don't know in what supply there will be cars if you do wreck in practice or the duels. So it's way far out in front of us, but it's something that I'm sure our team will be thinking about in the off season of how we're going to go by practices, because a lot of times I use the Clash as my practice because I didn't want to put the team behind by wrecking in practice, you know, and then you're thrashing, got to bring cars to North Carolina. It's just a big pain. But I just don't know how many cars are going to be available and ready by that time.
All right, Denny, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
We are now joined by Alex Bowman, driver of the number 88 Axalta Chevrolet, who is an Arizona native and the winner of our most recent race here at Auto Club Speedway. We will open up to questions for Alex. Please raise your hand and we will get a wireless microphone to you. We'll start in the back there with Wolfgang.
Wolfgang Monser from Germany Rennsport Press Agency. In case I was informed correct, you tested the new NASCAR car for the future. If so, can you tell the difference between the current car and the new car? Is there a big driving difference or driving behavior?
Common misconception. That was William Byron. We get confused all the time, though. It's good. I didn't test it.
So you never tested them so far? Okay.
No, that was Willie B. Oh, you're good. We get that all the time.
Additional questions for Alex? We'll go on the far left and then go to Lee.
Devin Henry, Sports 360 AZ. I know obviously you're from Tucson, not Avondale or Phoenix or anywhere up here, but is there anything that you miss that you're just not quite able to do when you come over here from when you were growing up here in Arizona?
Well, we're only here for a short period, so I can't hit every Mexican food place that I could possibly want to. That's probably the biggest thing I miss, because North Carolina just doesn't get it done in the Mexican food department. But I've been out here all week, so I've had my fair share of that. To be honest with you, other than that, I mean, I moved away when I was pretty young. I traveled so much with racing. You know, I didn't get to like be 18 or 21 and kind of run around Tucson and Phoenix. By that point, I was already in North Carolina. So for me, it's really typically a balance of the food places that I like and just trying to spend time with family and friends out here.
We're going to go to Lee and then Steve.
Lee Spencer RaceBoys.com. Any more thought to this tattoo? And if so, you were kind of against getting it on the neck. Where else would you put it? Someplace like what Austin Dillon did.
Not doing that. I don't know where I'm going to do it. Maybe I should get, like, I'm not William Byron, like, on my forehead. It's funny because I get that all the time with fans, especially on Axalta weekends. I'm always William, but I don't know. I'm going to get something. Most of the guys that I had that bet with have already gotten their tattoo. So there were a bunch of 88 tattoos that happened this weekend, but I don't really know. I got to think about it, do something cool. I don't necessarily want to get an 88. I want to get something different and something that that I really like. So we'll just wait and see, but it's going to happen. I was just a little preoccupied this week, so I didn't have much time to think about it.
And has the victory done anything to expedite contract talk for 2021?
I don't know. I didn't go home this week. Kind of celebrated with the team all week, so it's a little early to say, but I hope so. Hopefully we'll get on that soon and not have to worry about it anymore.
We're going to go to Steve and then Reed.
Alex, you had a weekend last week, won both practices, qualified really, really well, had the dominant car in the race. Every race car driver dreams of that. What is that like to be in that moment? What is it like to know that you could do it again here or you could do it again down the road? What's it like to be in that spot?
Yeah, I feel like I've had two of those cars in my career, Fontana being one and here in 2016 being the other. So those are the weekends that your job as a race car driver is typically pretty easy. The feedback is pretty minor on what the race car is doing and what we need to address and work on. And you don't have to throw a bunch of stuff at the car and really get it dialed in. It typically starts that way. So those weekends are definitely easier than the hard ones. But at the same time, I mean, you could take that exact thing back there next year and it not work. It's crazy how that works. I think we've tried the 2016 setup here about 3 times since then and have never made it work. So definitely a fun weekend to be a part of. I think my crew deserves a lot of the credit for that one because we pretty much raced it how it came off the truck.
Go to Reed right up here in the front, right in front of you, Reed.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire. I'm speaking to that 2016 race. Do you still consider that the pivot point in your career?
I think it was definitely a big part of it. There were some other races we ran really strong the end of that year, but none as strong as that. And I feel like that definitely opened the door and was a big help. So it's also a race that I thought about every single day for the next 2 years of my life until we won Chicago. And I still think about it a ton, just probably not as much as I did before we won. But I think it was a big part of it for sure.
Do we have anything final for Alex? Go to Steve and then Dustin.
I'm fascinated that you say you've thought about that 2016 race until you won at Chicagoland. Was that my one and only shot, or why has it dissipated since Chicagoland? And
yeah, I mean, I think it's really easy to sit there and be like, man, what if I never win a cup race? And then you look back at the closest you've been, and for me, that was always the closest I'd been. So now it's like, man, what if you never win at Phoenix? And think back to the closest you've been. So there's always a way to second guess yourself and to think about it. And I probably want to win here more than anywhere else we go, just being from close by. So I think that's something that's always been in my mind. I think winning helped relieve that a little bit, but it's still there for sure.
Back to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Ryan Newman's in the garage. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to see him, but to think about where things were a couple weeks ago, that he's actually at the track, although he still can't drive. What's just kind of your thoughts as a competitor?
Yeah, I've been kind of all over the place this morning, so I haven't had a chance to stop by and see him, but that's amazing. Just kind of where we left Daytona and thought things were, and how quickly things progressed in the next couple days in a positive light. And it's, you almost look at it like a miracle, you know, that he was able to survive a hit like that, a very worst case scenario hit in a lot of ways. And I think it's a big testament to NASCAR and all the work that they do. And also Ryan probably being one of the toughest guys in the garage. But it's amazing to see that, and really happy to hear he's here. I didn't know he was here until you said that, so I'll have to go see him for sure. But that's really cool, and just really happy that he is here.
Also, with all your sim work that you've done in the past, there are more and more guys or teams going back to the simulator like the day after the race to kind of, I guess, reconfirm things or things like that. What's the value in that? And is that something, because of this track's importance, is that something that you'll do when you get back, or is there a line because your other teammates want to do it because what's at stake?
Yeah, that was my job in 16 and 17, really, was to do the pre and post race stuff. And I think the thing that is most important about that is to correlate your post race stuff so the sim is more useful for future stuff. It's not so much, oh, we're going to go back to the sim on Monday and see what we should have done differently. It's, oh, we're going to go back to the sim on Monday and dial the sim in so it's more useful for the fall race. So that's a big thing, and that was 100% of my job for 2 years. So they got to twist my arm a little bit here lately to get in the simulator, but we've been a couple times this year, and I think it's all about how you use it and how close you get it. You can dial yourself out with it 100% as easy as you can dial yourself in with it, but if you use it the correct way, it's a very useful tool. I don't even know. Williams in there a ton. I'm in there a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I think Allgaier, he does a good bit of it. And maybe Priest, I feel like he's been in there a good bit. It's hard to say. I don't think it's one person anymore. We talked about continuing that in 2018. It just wasn't really doable with my schedule. I was in there 3 days, pretty much all day for 2 years, 3 days a week. And that's not really doable with my schedule these days. The blocks are cut, so you're not in there for a full day anymore. You're in there for like a chunk of hours instead of an entire day. But it's still super time consuming, and you're kind of locked in a little black, dark room and locked in a black box for a big chunk of hours. So it's not the most fun thing. It's not like playing NASCAR Heat.
Gonna wrap up with Wolfgang in the back.
Wolfgang once again from Germany. I have a follow-up from Dustin concerning the safety aspect after Ryan's accident. Do you have maybe some ideas, not even improve the safety of the car, but also the safety of the gear of a driver, for example, helmet technology?
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, I try to really rely on NASCAR for that. I'm not an engineer, or don't pretend to have all the knowledge that those guys have when it comes to that stuff, but I feel like that NASCAR does a really good job. I mean, you look at that crash and it almost, just watching it, looks like an unsurvivable impact, and now he's here walking around at the racetrack with us, so that's pretty amazing, and I think that's a testament to what they do. As far as making them even safer, I don't know. I think they're going to continue to do that. This new car is probably another step in that direction. But just really glad they do as much work in that area as they do for us. And obviously it's paying off in an instance like that. I don't know. I don't know any details about helmet stuff as far as if that was a factor. I feel like we all run our different helmets and have our different helmet brands that we like. They all have to meet a baseline certification. I feel like, I could be wrong, but I know there's a couple different certifications, and like open wheel cars have to meet one, and we have a different certification because obviously closed cockpit car. But I don't know. I feel like every helmet manufacturer, much like NASCAR, is going down a path of trying to make their stuff safer all the time. Safer, lighter, more comfortable, all of it. But I've been really happy with the helmets that I've been wearing, and have faith in them to keep getting safer.
All right, Alex, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
If I could have everyone's attention, we just have a couple quick announcements regarding the ARCA Menards series. You guys will be getting a release about this shortly, but wanted to announce that Dawn, America's #1 dish liquid, will be serving as the entitlement sponsor of the ARCA Menards